tips outlined with bright green moss. Understanding her almost paranoid reluctance to move forward, Andrew, her next-door neighbor, and one of Ken's best friends, had stepped in and volunteered to oversee the restoration. Julia trusted him the way she'd once trusted Ken, and the way she trusted Eric now. With his intimate connection to the house, he understood why it was so hard for her to make even the most rudimentary improvements. More importantly, he understood why it was necessary for her to be able to return after the work was completed and walk through the door feeling as if she'd come home. And she had. Almost. Fresh paint inside and out, and new rugs over the refinished hardwood floors were in keeping with the character of a house that had been built over 100 years ago. Then, vacationers had arrived via horse and buggy, an almost inconceivable contrast to the hybrid car that sat in the driveway now. She'd involved Eric and the kids by giving them the job of picking out the material for the curtains and bedspreads in the bedrooms. Fitting their personalities, the fabrics were busy and brightly colored, and not something Julia ever would have chosen. They would take some getting used to, but that feeling would come. It wasn't that the now colorful rooms weren't attractive. They were just different. So different, she could no longer imagine Ken or Joe or Maggie living in them. The craftsman quality of the refinished walnut bookshelves in the living room had given her pause when she first arrived. It wasn't that they looked new, it was that even through all the polish, they were as familiar as the sound and feel of the ocean outside the new triple-paned windows. For just that moment, she had wondered if she'd actually been looking for a way to escape the memories that tied her to the beach house. And then she had gone into the kitchen, where she had felt an instant, almost overwhelming sense of emotional betrayal. How had she ever convinced herself that granite and stainless steel could or should replace subway tile and you can have any color you want as long as it's white appliances? What had she been thinking? The kitchen had gone from old sweater you loved, but changed out of when company was coming, to a designer blazer. What would Joe and Maggie think? And Ken? He'd loved everything about the house just the way it was. Or had he? Was he reluctant to make changes because he was afraid of offending Joe and Maggie? No matter how long he'd owned the house, he always thought of it as truly belonging to them. But he'd died unexpectedly, a man who'd never even had the flu, and left the caring about such things to her without telling her what she was supposed to care about the most. And then, less than a year later, Joe and Maggie died, taking the dreams and hopes and desires of their lives with them. Reeling from her loss, Julia discovered that grief is a color. White. It is the gathering of other colors and combining them until the joy of yellow, the passion of red, and the calm of blue disappear. She was left with nothing but the daily effort to go on. When Eric fixed her broken faucet, and over the summer became a part of her life, he not only restored the primary colors, but reopened her world to violet and orange and green. Gradually, carefully, she moved out of the shadow of white and back into sunflowers and grass and ocean waves. When their daughter was born 2 years later, and they were alone for several minutes in her hospital room while they waited for the attendant to bring a wheelchair to take her to the car, a sliver of sunlight escaped the curtain and bounced off her wedding ring, spraying the opposite wall with miniature rainbows. Julia had never believed in signs or portents, until that moment. A tear slid down her cheek and landed on her baby's blanket. Whatever sorrow had lingered in the depths of her heart was gone, replaced by the understanding that she was exactly where she should be, and with the people she should be with. Julia did a final sweep of the house, taking pictures with her iPhone that she would send to Eric and the girls while she waited at the airport for her flight home. As she tried to angle herself for the best shot of the master bedroom, she stopped to pay attention to the wash of